Assalamualaikum everyone. Nice to see you all. Apologies for being slightly late. Luckily though, this time around I have learnt and I didn't have any technical issues. Before I continue, can I in the comments box just ask those of you who are watching live to confirm that you can see the full screen? Only because last week when I did the playback, I noticed that half my screen had been cut off and you couldn't see the full slide. So if you are able to kindly in the comments box, let me know. I'm just going to go onto my phone and go onto YouTube to see if I can see the comments. So I don't think I can see. Oh, I can see it here. Oh, hi Phil, nice to see you. Yeah, so if you can just let me know, are you able to see the full slide, or is something being cut off? I don't hear. I assume that you can see the full slide. Okay, so today I'm going to be taking you through the itineraries for our northern adventures. Now, there are 6 different options, so I just thought for ease I would go with the 27-day itinerary, which is the longest itinerary we have. However, I will then go on to explain where we've got the 14, 16, 17 and 19-day variations and how they kind of differ from the 27, what's taken out and what's included. But before I continue, I'm going to quickly go through and I'm going to start off with showing you a video. I'm going to add the video and place that. So the reason I want to show this video is this is a video that I didn't make. It was the tourism board of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that made, but I think it's an exciting way to start the presentation because it will give you a flavour of some of the areas that you will be seeing in the north. So although this video doesn't cover a lot of the destinations, I will, once I upload this onto YouTube, share links of videos which more comprehensively oh, fantastic. That's brilliant. Really good to know. So what I will be doing later is on the YouTube link, sharing links to videos of kind of Hunza Skardu, some of the areas that have been covered and created by content creators and YouTubers, because I'm not a vlogger and I'm not a content creator. So today's presentation, if you're looking for amazing pictures and videos, I don't want to disappoint you. It's a lot more practical and functional. It's to take you through what the itineraries look like for our northern tours and to address and cover questions. But before, as I said, kick off with the presentation, I'm going to show you this video, which I just think is a really nice way to kick it off. So they're just being struck by, so when I got them to cover and talk about it in the itinerary, you'll know what I'm referring to. This is aspects of Prague that you're seeing now, and some terrain of Iran, which is also part of the itinerary. So this here is Malam Jabra in Swat, which you will see if you go on the 27-day tour. Okay, so I hope that that gave you a really nice flavour of what the of some of the aspects that you'll be seeing on this tour. Now, I think Phil, you did actually join me last week as well, so excuse me if I'm repeating a few of the slides from the beginning. But obviously, I always assume from the starting point of ignorance that you may not have seen the previous video, and this is the very first time you're coming into contact with my company, Xperience Pakistan, and watching this video. And I will also try and speak a bit slowly because my husband did pick me up last week and said I spoke way too fast. So over the next hour and a half, I'll be going through, as I said, the itinerary for the northern tour that we do in Pakistan, and why are holidays and travel so important. Because to be honest, money comes back, but the time you've lost doesn't. So for those of you who don't know me, Xperience Pakistan, I set the company up in 2018. So I've been going for about 6 years now. Since then, we've won about 10 awards for Adventure Tour Agency of the Year, for Best Customer Service, and also for our kind of duty of care in terms of the quality of tours that we create. We are also members of Responsible Travel. And what does that mean for those of you not in the travel industry and aren't familiar? So to be a member of Responsible Travel as a tour operator, you have to demonstrate that you are actually delivering your tours in a socially responsible manner, so that the locals in Pakistan, or in the community, in the destination you cover, in this case is Pakistan, are benefiting from the tourism we bring in. We ensure that we try and do it as responsibly as possible, so to cause as little damage to the environment. Now, it's an oxymoron, because I know you have to fly to get to Pakistan, but wherever possible, we try and kind of prefer road routes over flights to try and minimize or reduce the carbon footprint. In many places, we try and use hotels and that are kind of that the local operators are running to again ensure that it's local smaller businesses that are benefiting. For me, I always say that, when I'm taking people to Pakistan, or when I'm talking about holidays to Pakistan, it's actually my passion project. I'm not selling a holiday. What I'm doing is I'm inviting you into my country, inviting you to show you Pakistan through my eyes. Xperience Pakistan is very important for me because it's not just a commercial business. Ultimately, for me, it's about trying to take as many people to Pakistan as possible. Now, at the end of the tour, at the end of this presentation, you may decide that you don't want to go with me, and you may decide, I want to go to Pakistan, but I want to go with someone else. That's absolutely fine. My main prerogative, my main reason for doing this is about putting Pakistan on people's radar, changing perceptions and changing narrative around the country. And as I said, taking people to go to Pakistan and actually see it for what it really is, which is a beautiful and hospitable country, which is very authentic and very raw as a holiday destination. So that's a bit of an quite long intro into Xperience Pakistan. So, Adventures of Northern Pakistan. So some of the things that you'll be seeing now, you'll see that I've got the map here of Pakistan just to put it into context, and the itineraries for the North Pakistan kind of cover this area here. So Pakistan is made up of 6 provinces, but the provinces in which the northern areas are covered are in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and also Gilgit-Baltistan. One of the things you will notice about Gilgit-Baltistan is that 90% of the population in Gilgit-Baltistan are educated, and there's a strong initiative to empower women there, both in terms of not just education, but in terms of work. The government has put a lot of effort into giving women grants so that they can run their own cafes and carpentry. And when you go up north, you will see a lot more women in the kind of hotels and restaurants, and also running their small businesses. So it's a really nice example of showing that whilst there are perhaps areas in Pakistan which could do with more progressive thought, but equally on the counterbalance, there are actually areas in Pakistan where women are empowered and the community is very progressive. So the pictures here, just to give it context, that is Hosseini Bridge and Pasu Cones. Over here you've got a picture of Ferry Meadows. This here is Baltit Fort, and then you've got Satpura Lake, which is in Skardu. So as I mentioned to you at the start, we have got, actually I need to update that. So it says 5 different options there. We actually have 6 different options. So it starts off with a 14-day tour. Now, one of the key things that Xperience Pakistan we pride ourselves on is that we do specialise in customised and bespoke tours. So I do know clients who have done this in 7 days. I personally wouldn't recommend it because, you know, the idea of going for me on a holiday is it's not an Instagram holiday. It's a holiday where you want to take in the culture, see the people, relax and see it in a chilled manner. And I think if you do it in 6 or 7 days, actually, for me, it becomes an Instagram holiday. And what I mean by that is you're literally just touching, taking picture, tick box to say I've been there, but you haven't really experienced it. Okay, so as I said, you have the choice of doing a 14-day tour. In a 14-day tour, you literally just cover kind of Jalas, Gilgit and Hunza. So this is the area that's covered in the 14-day tour. If you went on to do the 16-day tour, you still cover this, but you also cover Fairy Meadows, which is kind of around here. Fairy Meadows, I haven't been there personally myself, and it's on my bucket list destinations to go to, but I have heard it's got one of the most dangerous roads in the world, and I say that because if you're an adventure seeker, you know, I've heard that, you know, people absolutely get a thrill out of it, and it's dangerous because of not just its gradients but how narrow it is. We then have the 17-day tour option. So in the 17-day tour, you don't cover Fairy Meadows, but we do Naran, Gilgit, Hunza, but you also go on to spend a couple of days in Skardu as well. So you kind of have this V-shaped area that you do. The 19-day tour enables you to do both Hunza, Skardu, but also Fairy Meadows. And as I said, we have the final 27-day tour, which not only enables you to see all of Gilgit-Baltistan, so you see Hunza, Gilgit, Skardu, Fairy Meadows, but we take you on here to Shandur Polo and to Chitral. So really you do kind of cover the whole northern area. So you can actually do any of these tours independently or privately with your own friends at any time of the year. But obviously we sometimes, or I'm sometimes approached by solo travelers who don't have anyone to travel with, but would like to go as part of a group. So we do have some group tours here for next year and for 2026. Now, bear in mind that the prices, which I will be sharing at the end, are estimates for 2025. I can't even provide prices for 2026. And that's mainly because in most countries, the hotel industry works on an annualized basis. So we currently don't have the prices for next year. We won't get them till December. And as I said, for 2026, they'll just laugh in our face because obviously prices for fuel, hotels, etc. Is influenced by macroeconomics. And with the world we live in at the moment, everything's so uncertain. So I think it would be unfair to ask them to quote a number now. So I'm going to kick off with the tour now. So we start the tour off in Islamabad. That is the starting point and the end point. So if you're looking to book flights, you would, as I said, be booking flights to fly into Islamabad. British Airways is the only flight from the UK which flies in directly to Islamabad, but otherwise you have multiple of airlines. You've got all the Arab airlines, so Etihad, Emirates, Gulf, Oman Airlines. You've got Turkish Airlines, and then you've got. I think that's all the airlines, and I think you've got some of the French and Dutch airlines as well that fly in there as well. So depending on when your flight arrives, you know, we provide you with all the airport transfers and we collect you. We also make sure that on the day we pick you up, we take you to, or the guide will take you to a local shop so you can get a local SIM so that are able to communicate easily throughout your trip. We also always recommend is don't exchange your money when you're in your country. We will take you to the Bhumburet exchange for you to exchange money there. It's not that we're getting kickback or anything of sorts. It's because we obviously have knowledge of where we know where you can get the best exchange rate. And one of the other things, just before, whilst I remember, is when you are returning to the UK or the US or wherever you're returning, and you have rupees left over, to exchange your money back into your currency, the Bhumburet exchange is actually at the airport, but before you go through security. So please be aware of that, and obviously we'll factor in some extra time to get you to the airport should you have any rupees left that you want to then convert. So day one, as I said, depending on what time you arrive, we will be taking you to see the local site. So you've got the Faisal Mosque, which is the image that you can see in the slide, the Lok Varsa Museum, the Pakistan National Monument, and then you can read the stuff there. Because it's a long itinerary, I'm not going to literally list through everything. And as I said, the slides are there for you to have a quick read through. So on day two, we leave Islamabad and start making our way to Naran. Now, Naran, I'm just going to quickly kind of jump back here just to show you. So if you remember Jalas, Naran, so Jalas is around here. So we're going to start making our journey there. But on day 2, it's not a direct journey. If you remember in the video, you saw some of the remains of the Buddhist sites in Taxila. So we're going to be making our way to Naran via Taxila. And the actual excursion at Taxila will take probably about 2 to 3 hours. Now, the drive from Islamabad to Naran is typically about 9 hours, so it's a long day. Realistically, by the time we get to Naran, it will be kind of 8, 9 in the evening, so it will be enough for you to have a nice meal and then just kind of put your head down to have sleep. Naran was one of my favourite places growing up. I've been there several times. That's a benefit of living in Peshawar, because in the summers, to escape the heat, we would go up north and it was quite accessible. That said, as I said, growing up as a kid, it was lovely because it was really raw. There was a lot of greenery, and the image that you can see there is Jeel Se Fumaluk. It's famous because several divers from around the world have been to Jeel Se Fumaluk, and to date, no one can actually find out, or no one's discovered the exact depth of the lake. What's lovely about it is also because when you get to Naran, to actually get to the lake, you require the local jeeps. It's not a straightforward route. I took my husband and my kids back in 2016, and I remember that some of the roads had been blocked because of a landslide, so we had to then walk part of the route so that that could be cleared up, and then the jeep followed us later. But when you're going around it, you will be thinking to yourself, what the hell was Sadi's going on about, because this is just muddy and grotty. But that's what's so magical about it, because you do go up these unassuming kind of hill or mountain tracks, and then suddenly you open up to this vast space, and right in front of you, you see the most beautiful blue-green lake with these stunning snow-capped mountains. Now it's one of those places you go and you can spend a few hours there. There's a choice that when I growing up, all you could do really was you could have a boat trip, or you could just walk around it. Now they've got a lot more cafes, so you can sit there and enjoy a lunch while you're looking at the views. I know that in 2016 they had some sledges as well, so the kids went on some sledges and went down the mountains, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I take a deep breath, because one of the upsetting things is in doing so, you'll see now there's a lot more pollution, where unfortunately you can see litter thrown around, which obviously is quite upsetting because it's such a beautiful lake, and it's a shame that exists. The other thing I think, and that's a danger, I think with tourism sometimes, is that where you used to have the old bazaars where you could have the fried pakoras, fried samosas, have now been converted into all I call these ugly cement blocks. So these ugly hotels that have just come up with no thought of the environment or planning. You can tell I live in the UK, but no thought's been given into it, and that's where I think some of the beauty has gone to how I recall it growing up. Sorry, that was quite. I get very passionate about Naran because, as I said, it was one of my favourite places growing up. So on day 4, we will be kind of making our way from Naran towards Fairy Meadow. Now, some of the key attractions, apart from Fairy Meadow itself, which you'll see in the evening, is the Rye Court Bridge, which you can see in this image here. It's about a 4.5-hour drive to get to the Rye Court Bridge. Now, to Rye Court Bridge to Tartu is another 1.5 hour drive. Now, to get to Fairy Meadows, actually, there's no jeep or car that can get to Fairy Meadows. There is a trek involved. The trek is, although it's only 9 kilometers, it takes you 2 to 3 hours, and that's mainly because of the altitude, because of the gradient. As I said, I haven't actually been to Fairy Meadows myself, but from speaking to people and seeing the videos, I can see that it does require a decent level of stamina. I don't think it's a place or destination that you can go to if you have no level of fitness, simply because of how steep the gradient is. I will also put in a caveat to say that if you suffer from asthma, as you go up there, the air does thin. Yes, son, I'm sorry, I've just seen your comment. It's actually very safe. I've got people who just came back last week. Sorry, I just got distracted with the comment. So basically, I had clients who were there last month, and they suffered from asthma. And yeah, as I said, they didn't go to Fairy Meadows. They went to Hunza, and we did actually have to take them to hospital one evening because of the fact that they were having trouble breathing. because of the, as I said, the air being thin. It was lovely, and I wish I had taken a screenshot, because actually they were really good. I always create a WhatsApp group so that I can stay in communication with all my clients throughout their trip. And they actually said, look, the hospitals were fantastic. And I think one of them quoted, say, I wish the NHS hospitals were like this, because they took, they were taken care of, and quite promptly, and the hospitals were clean. But the reason I mention that is that, please, if you suffer from asthma and you still want to go up north, absolutely, it's fine. Take inhalers, but please make sure you have your medical insurance, because obviously in this case the client did have insurance. I mean, you should always have your travel insurance anyway, and that helped out, and it obviously came to use. So on day 5, we arrive at Fairy Meadows. That is a picture of Fairy Meadows. There are a couple of options on. You can either kind of, if you're going as part of a group, you do not have to do all the activities. You only do what you want. You can stay back with a book, or if you're like me, a photographer, just spend the day at the lodges and enjoy the environment and read a book and take some pictures. If actually you're more of a trekker and you're going specifically because you want to trek, as I said, there is a trek that we organised to Bail Camp and to Nanga Parbat Base Camp. There's a really good video I came across last week, which was made by a vlogger, and it was all about, is Fairy Meadow, does Fairy Meadows live up to the hype? And I'll share a link for that video, because what I liked about that video is that she you watch her go do the walk, so you can see some of the challenges or not, but it's an honest perspective from a foreigner of what I mean. Needless to say, she did at the end say it is worth it because it is beautiful, but from what I saw, you do need to be of decent stamina. It wasn't a straightforward climb. So on day 6, we depart Fairy Meadows, and we start making our way to a store, which is so a lot of these names that I'm kind of naming are kind of names of valleys around the area. Now, a store is famous for its breathtaking natural beauty. I mean, I think that, to be fair, most of the valleys that you cover, whether that's Gilgit, whether that's Hunza, a store, all of these have beautiful views. It's obviously known for its snow-capped mountains, its lush meadows and turquoise rivers. There is a fair bit of time spent in the car on this day. So from Fairy Meadows to Tata, it's about a couple of hours drive. We then go across the bridge, which is another hour's drive. And as I said, you kind of go on to Rama, which is 2.5 hours. So you're spending, if I were to do the maths, 2, 4, 6, about 6.5 hours, on the road. Now that's never like completely, throughout. There's lots of stops that you can take to stretch your legs, to take pictures, but a lot of the time will be spent on the road. So by the time you get to a store, it will be the evening. Day 7, we kind of take you to Desai Plateau. Desai Plateau again is known for the beautiful lake and its stunning views. It's actually, I was looking at some pictures, and I often get asked is that, can we do wildlife kind of adventures in Pakistan? And I'm always a bit skeptical because I'm not that familiar. It's not like India, where India has a lot of wildlife. I think Pakistan doesn't have as much. That said, when I was seeing some pictures of Desai Plateau, actually it's known for its brown bears. I mean, there were some stunning images of these brown bears in Plateau. The reason I didn't use that image is because I just didn't want I didn't want to come across misleading, say that I'm selling a wildlife, or that you're guaranteed to see the bears. But as I said, there are things like snow leopards and bears that you can find in Pakistan. But like any wildlife, holiday, it requires a lot of patience, and there's no guarantees that you will see them. On day 8, we go on to Skardu. So Skardu, we spend the day seeing the site. So that is Shangri-La. It's a beautiful beautiful building, and you can tell with a lot of the architecture that you're seeing up north, because it borders China, there is a lot of influence from Tibet in terms of not just the architecture, but even the cuisine, where you'll find that it's not as spicy as perhaps as you could traditionally think of Pakistan, and it's a lot more soup based. But this particular kind of building, Shangri-La, is a hotel, but you don't have to stay at the hotel. And obviously in this trip you won't be staying at the Shangri-La, but there is the option to go there and actually have some lunch and high tea just for the experience. And it's set by a beautiful lake, so it has got some beautiful scenes. Other places that we will take you to will be the Sarfanga Cold Desert. And as I said, when I upload this, I will be sharing links to some of these, because some of the views of Sarfanga Cold Desert is absolutely beautiful. I think it's the only cold desert, and the other one I think is in Nepal, which you'd logically think that would be right because it's next to Pakistan, where you traditionally think of deserts and we think of like the Sahara and hot weather. But this is literally a desert surrounded by snow-capped mountains, and it's a stunning view. So on day 9, we start leaving Skardu and going to Kaplu. Kaplu is another valley which is kind of around Skardu, and that's kind of again one of the views that you can enjoy. It's known for its Shayok River, the mosque, and the fort itself. On day 10, we start leaving Kaplu and we go to Hushay. Now, to Hushay, we just make a day trip. Now, Hushay traditionally used to be the poorest valley in the region, but because over the last 6 or 7 years we've seen a real increase in kind of trekkers going to northern Pakistan, what they found is that actually they have really, the community has benefited from trekkers coming up north to do the hikes, and obviously benefiting the local cafes, the local hotels, which is really which is fantastic. And I think that is one of the greatest role that tourism plays for the economies of poorer countries. On day 11, we've put in a rest day. Now, bear in mind, this is based on the 27-day itinerary, and you'll find that throughout, after every about 7 or 8 days, or 10 days, we've put a rest day. That's important because I did it a 19-day tour back in 2019, and obviously I was doing it for work, so there's lots of long hours, and it was great. But by the end of it, you kind of feel you need another holiday just to recover. And I just think sometimes it's good to have rest days because it gives you time to reflect on some of the stuff you've seen over the last few days. This picture here is of the Kaplu Fort, and then there you can see some of the views. Now, some of the forts, I think it is Kaplu Fort, or one of the forts has been converted into a hotel by Serena. Now, I'm just when I go on later to quote some of the prices, so part of the 27-day tour doesn't use Serena. That said, there's always options to upgrade, but one of the reasons we've not used Serena because Serena is one of the most expensive chains in Pakistan. They're stunning hotels, but because this is a 27-day itinerary, so we're conscious that it's already very expensive because of the number of days, the length of this holiday, to then start using expensive hotels within that mix, which just make it very quite inaccessible. Phil, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions as I go along. You don't have to wait till the end. So day 12, we leave Kaplu. So we're now kind of leaving Kaplu and starting to make our way back to, back towards Hunza. So if you just think, I'm going to quickly, that's good, I can do it like that. I'm going to quickly flick to this slide here, just to show you. So far what we've done is that we've done this and we've covered all of this area here. So I've just been we've just explored this area. We're now making our way back to Gilgit here, where we're going to start looking at this region. So if I go back to slide 18. Right, so as we get to Gilgit, from Gilgit, we're not going to stop at Gilgit. We stop at Gilgit, I think, on the way back. But over here, we're going to make our way from Gilgit to Karimabad, Hunza. This image here is of Baltit Fort. It's basically the residence, no, it's not. Let me correct myself. It used to be the residence of the Prince of Chitral. He now lives, of the Prince of Hunza. He now lives in Islamabad with his family. And about 10 or 15 years ago, the government of Gilgit-Baltistan took the fort and actually converted it into a museum. It's now a World Heritage Site, and I have to say they've done an incredible job. The guide there is really, really good, really informative. The views are stunning, and there is so much history behind how you can see a lot of the influence, as I said, of Tibet and China. And part of the reason is because the prince's father actually married a lady from Tibet. And obviously when she moved to Hunza, to Pakistan, she also kind of brought in a lot of her influence in terms of the home decor and how it was designed. So I obviously not wanting to give away, and I don't particularly remember all the history, but there's lots to enjoy at the fort. The other thing which I hadn't quite realised is that en route to the fort, I mean, there's a lovely cafe where you can enjoy some tea and breakfast, and it's, as I said, run by the local women. It's a kind of women's social enterprise project. But what I hadn't realised is actually how steep the walk is to the fort. Again, it's about a 15-minute walk. It does require a certain level of stamina. I think, if you've had knee surgery, or you have some problems with your hips or walking, just let us know so that we can see if we can arrange for a jeep to take you up there. Because when I went there, I mean, we walked, but I did notice a few jeeps going up, so I think that can be arranged. So it's just one of those things, to discuss in advance. On day 14, we start kind of taking you to central Hunza and Nagar. Now, that image there is of Hopper Valley. So what this image actually isn't doing very well is those black things in the middle are actually glaciers. So they kind of used to be rivers and all that, and they've actually now frozen into black glaciers. Now, I'm not a hiker or trekker, but there are short hiking, trekking routes that you can enjoy there, which are about a duration of 2 to 3 hours. So again, it's one of those things that if you wanted to do this as a private tour, or even if you were a group and part of the group wanted to do it and part of them didn't, that's something that we can have a discussion and we can ensure that we arrange. Other highlights on day 14 are Altit Fort. So if you think about Hunza the way it is, you've got Altit Fort on one end and then you've got Altit Fort on the other end. And again, both were used to defend Hunza and protect Hunza from obviously the enemy coming in. As I said, I keep repeating, there's some really good content, some videos I found which go on to talk about it and show Altit Fort and Baltit Fort. Please, if you kind of come onto this video after the recording, when I upload it onto YouTube, I will make sure I've got the links there for you to then enjoy. And of course, the day will end where we will take you to Eagle's Nest for you to see the sunset. I was fortunate enough to go in 2019. It is absolutely stunning and surreal. So it's well worth the effort. Again, it's one of those things you have to. We try and make sure we get there early enough, because it does get a bit busy with a lot of people and cars wanting to get there, and because it's a narrow road to get up there. Again, we just have to allow time to ensure we're not missing the sunset. Then on day 15, we take you to Upper Hunza. Now, this is one of my favourite places. It's called, that image you see there is of Basu Cones. Basu Cones, if I'm honest, this isn't a great image actually. I find with Hunza, you can take as many pictures or videos, but nothing replicates being there. And partly because what's beautiful about Hunza, it's not just the views, it's the fresh and crispness of the air. But it's also the tranquility, which I don't think pictures and videos can often convey enough. And so, I can't stress enough how Hunza really is a place that you need to go to experience. Pictures and videos just don't do it justice. So some of the things that we'll be taking you to see are Gulmit Village. Gulmit Village, if you're a meat eater, there's a lovely shop or a lovely cafe, and they are known for kind of serving... there's known for, so in Hunza they eat yak meat. So we had these lovely skewers of barbecued yak meat, which was absolutely delicious. What was delicious about it was the simplicity of it. As I said, the meat, the food in Hunza isn't your traditional Pakistani food. It's basically salt and pepper. There's not a lot of spices, but I think in doing so you could really enjoy the flavour of the meat. And of course, we'll take you to see Atabad Lake, which I think I haven't got a picture of Atabad Lake. Atabad Lake is a beautiful lake. It's actually it wasn't there about 20 years ago. It was born out of a natural disaster in which some mountains fell as on the back of an earthquake, and they created this lake. The lake is beautiful because of its blue, green, turquoise colours, and it's become a tourist attraction in its own right. Some of the things you can enjoy at Atabad Lake are jet skiing, or you can sit on a boat and just enjoy going through the boat. The closest I can say in terms of how it feels, it's like if you were to go to the Nordic countries, whether that's Finland or Denmark, and you can imagine going on the boat and seeing, kind of the the snow-capped mountains and all that around. It's like that. So it's absolutely stunning. So on day 16 is another rest day. So this is actually a picture of Family Hotel. So this is one of the hotels that you'll be staying at when you are in Upper Hunza, and that's the view that you can enjoy from the hotel. So I just thought it'd be good to share an image so you can put into context of kind of the habitat where you'll be staying. Now on day 16 is a rest day, so it doesn't mean that you're confined to the hotel. There's Karimabad Bazaar is lovely. So if you are looking to get your gifts, souvenirs, or if you like Kashmir shawls and you like, gemstones and kind of handicraft, Karimabad is probably the best place to go. Actually, Karimabad Bazaar, or also Hopper Valley, where I took you earlier, because Hopper Valley has a few bazaars, a few shops there that you can shop at as well. The advantage of shopping at the shops in Hopper Valley, because it's less touristy and a bit more remote, you'll find you can negotiate and get a better price. On Karimabad, obviously it's a main thoroughfare, and it's probably the high street, so all the tourists go there, so the prices will be slightly higher. That said, the currency at the moment, the last time I looked at it, it was about £1 was the equivalent of 360 or 365 rupees. So the rupee is very weak. So when I say expensive, it's putting into context. I'd also just throw in, in terms of, although I love negotiating, I think with age, I've got to the point where thinking, do you know what, £5 in the grand scheme of things would probably be far more value for the local there, and I'd rather pay £5 more than haggle £5 just because I feel I've won. So I think it's putting into context of actually how much you want to negotiate, bearing in mind how strong the pound is against currency. So the reason I put the map here is just to let you know. So we have now covered all of Hunza. So we've covered this bit, and we've covered Hunza, and I think the next part of the trip is now making our way this way here. So we're now leaving Gilgit-Baltistan and starting to go back to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and go to Chitral and Shandur Polo ground. So as on day 17, that image there is of Atabad Lake, so you can see what I mean by the blue-green, and really you don't need to Photoshop the images, images of Atabad Lake, because it really is that beautiful when you see it. So the drive there, again, most of the next couple of days are spent on the road, where it's actually trying to go from Hunza to Chitral. There's lots of natural beauty. There's lots of running streams that you can enjoy, lots of honey stops and things like that to enjoy. But ultimately, the next 2 days, really, there's no key attraction to see. It's just trying to make our way to the next part, the other end of Pakistan. So on day 18, we make our way from Gupis to Mastuj. Now, as I said, Mastuj really is just a stopover. There's not a lot to see there. But this image here is of Shandur Polo Ground. So on the way to Mastuj, we do make a stop at Shandur Polo Ground, mainly because there's only one road going to Mastuj, and by default you go past Shandur Polo Ground. But it is the highest polo ground in the world, so it is a stunning, a magical place to see. Now, when I went in 2019, there were no matches. It was just quiet, and we took some pictures. This obviously is, I think it's an illustration of kind of when the matches are happening and the crowds it attracts. To give you an idea, there's a massive Shandur Polo Festival that happens every year. It tends to happen around the 7th to 9th of July. So it's in the kind of the second week of July. And I call it the Glastonbury of Pakistan. So if you think about Glastonbury, where it's music festivals, and you've got people selling arts and crafts, you've got yoga, all sorts of happening. It's the same with Shandur Polo Festival, where you've got all the local teams. So polo is a massive sport up in the north of Pakistan. So you've got teams from Gilgit, teams from Hunza, Chitral. They all kind of congregate here, and there's a real theatre. In fact, and I'm going to stop talking at this point, and I'm going to just take this off, and I'm going to show you a video, because the video really gives you an atmosphere or an understanding of what Shandur Polo Festival is like. So let me just see if I can remove this and add this to the stage. So this will give you a flavour of what Shandur Polo Festival is all about. So I will just get myself back on there. Okay. So that was, will hopefully give you a flavour of Shandaru Polo Festival. As I said, that tends to happen more around the 7th to 9th of July. So it depends on when you want to go. But if you go outside of that, you can go to enjoy and take pictures, but there's not a lot happening there. So just to put it into context, when we get to Masouj, as I said, Masouj is really just a resting spot. When I went, I did try to look around to see if there's anything worth showing clients. It's nice because it is literally off the beaten track, and you'll see it's 150 kilometers, and you think, why does it take 7 hours? Because 150 kilometers is not that far. Part of the reason it takes so long is because whilst you've got the Karakoram Highway and you've got great roads in Hunza, and I think Skardu, you've got fantastic roads. The roads between Hunza going to Chitral is yet to be developed, so a lot of it is broken road. Personally, though, it's like, I think that's part of the adventure. I really enjoyed it, but it just means obviously because of that you do go slower than you do on the other roads. So we leave Masouj, and from Masouj to Chitral, it is about a 4-hour drive. So we have enough time for you to enjoy kind of Chitral. We'll spend half the day wandering. Chitral, this is kind of one of the mosques. It's the Shahi mosque that we'll take you to see. What's lovely about Chitral, as I said, is that there are a couple of shops that I noticed which were social enterprise shops, and again, it was the local government really empowering women to kind of sell their handicraft there. I think what I liked about Chitral as well, and what I think I've got a picture here. Yeah, so you've got a picture is near Chitral. You've got this polo ground, and actually, often you'll see. I think it's on a Tuesday and a Thursday that they've got matches happening, and so it's lovely. You'll just see kind of right behind the camera, but you can congregate and watch a game being played, and it has got such a lovely atmosphere. And I think after that you do have the choice if you'd like to go on a horse. I think my dad did sit on a horse, and my son, just to enjoy the experience. But it's if you think about it, it's like their equivalent going to a football match. The locals love polo there, and they really get behind their teams. The other kind of things to see there in Chitral, as I said, is kind of the bazaars. They have got some gemstones there for you to enjoy and see as well. On day 21, we kind of take you from Chitral to the valley of Kalaash, the Bhumburet Valley. Now, Kalaash has got a lot of interest for many historians as well. There are an indigenous community, and I think of memory there's only about 4,000 left. So the government of Pakistan, certainly when Imran Khan was in government, were doing a lot to ensure that their culture could be protected and maintained. What you'll find, and when you go there, you'll see that many of the Kalaash people living there have kind of converted to Islam. Some of it because obviously they've lived in Muslim countries, so they have a preference, because Kalaash by default are actually pagans. They are their festivities, their rituals are based around seasons, and they have 4 big festivals a year. And as I said, they kind of tend to be that you've got Chilam Joshi, you've got the Pool Festival, and then I should know the other 2, but I forget. But they tend to be one. The big one is in December. Then you have one in August, so just as summer is ending, autumn starting. There's one around May, which is again the start of spring. What's lovely, you'll see, they've got the colourful clothes, so they're celebrated with lots of colourful clothes, dancing. I think this is the only place where you can actually buy wine legally in public, because basically they produce wine. I've forgotten the name of the wine, but when you go up to the valley, you can actually drink and enjoy some of it. I mean, I'm not a drinker, but those of my friends and clients who do drink have said that they've thoroughly enjoyed it. The Kalaash Museum is, if you like museums, great. But there are some museums I like. There are some that I don't particularly like. But I loved this museum for 2 reasons. It's a relatively new museum. I think it was only made about 10 or 12 years ago from some grant money. Um, but they've done it really well because it's not just lots of artifacts. It's a combination of some artifacts, but combination of really, interactive kind of elements in terms of the way they've brought to life the culture and sharing that history with you. I mean, I personally thought it was a very well done museum. The other thing that I get asked questions about is when you're there, the people of Kalaash are used to people coming and taking pictures. But like you would, it's one of those things, just respectfully asking them to see if it's okay. Most of the time they'll say yes, but I think it's one of those just to show mutual respect and ask them before you take pictures of them. So day 21, we actually stay the night at Kalaash. And then on day 22, we take you to see, that's a picture of my father, my son. So that's a picture from our trip in 2019, where we were just doing some shopping from them. Now, on day 22, we take you to see not just the museum, but also their graveyard, where obviously they've kind of got some of the bodies. There's a really fascinating place which is for women. So when women menstruate in the Kalaash community, they're not really allowed to be part of the family or stay with them because they're considered to be dirty. So they actually almost have this retreat or place that they have to stay in whilst they're menstruating. So there's lots of fascinating like nuggets and cultural things that you pick up, which I've absolutely found fascinating. So on day 23, we now start leaving Kalaash and we're starting to make our descent back towards Islamabad, but we go via Mangora Swat. So some of you will know Swat because from, I've forgotten her name, from Malala Yusuf. So yes, Swat is Malala Yusuf's town. Now, when she was obviously attacked, there was an influx of kind of the extremists there, and girls weren't allowed to study. Things have moved on a lot more. It's a lot more relatively back to normal, where girls are back to school. It's very safe, and Swat is also known as the Switzerland of Asia, mainly because of its blue lakes and snow-capped mountains. It's a stunning little town. Now, I haven't been to Swat in over 20 years, but I remember going 20 years ago, and it was beautiful. I remember the water being ice cold, but I remember enjoying some lovely fresh trout fish that had been barbecued. So that's one of the things that actually not just Swat, even on the way when you go up to Kalaash, you'll see there's lots of these trout farms dotted around by the roads where you can actually rock up and pick the trout that you want, which then they'll take out of the water and then they'll kind of grill or barbecue in front of you, and it is absolutely lovely. I mean, just fish with fresh tandoori naan itself, it's a lovely meal. So we'll start making our way to Mangora Swat, and kind of because it's a long drive, by the time you get there in the evening, it's really just enjoying a nice meal and just kind of relaxing. On day 25, we leave Swat and we kind of take you to Peshawar, which is my hometown up in the north of Pakistan. But we take you via Takhbai. So Takhbai, again, you've got the Buddhist monastery that you can enjoy. This here is an image of Sethi Mohalla, Sethi House. So Sethi House is famous for its architecture. There are only 7 of these houses made. They are now World Heritage Sites. I take a lot of pride when I talk about these because it's kind of where my ancestors used to live. So my maternal grandfather lived here, and I remember when we were kids, we used to go and we play hide and seek in those courtyards. Of course, we didn't value or appreciate it at the time, because at the time we would always say we want to live in one of the modern houses or stay there. We all now live in modern houses, and these have all become museums. And actually, it's like now, I think when you're older and you think, wow, I can't believe I stayed there, because you start appreciating the intricacy of the design, the architecture, and how beautiful those houses were made. In the evening, we will take you to Food Street, also known as Namak Mandi, in my opinion, to have the best karai gosht and chapli kebabs. On day 26, we will be leaving Peshawar. So some of the attractions, as I said, I've kind of not listed item by item, because I find that every client's tour ends up being different, because our guides are very, very good. They kind of quickly pick up the interest of the group, what they like, and then they'll even kind of tweak it when you're there and tailor it based on the vibes they've got from the group of what they're interested in. So if a group shows a lot of interest for history or things like that, then they will basically ensure that there's more stuff like that. If it's actually a group that aren't really that interested in the museum, there'll be a lot more about people watching bazaars, natural beauty. But one of the things I have said that, whether it's day 25 or day 26 is Islamia College. And as I said, I'm from Peshawar. I went to college there. And one of the most beautiful architectures, in my opinion, is Islamia College. Islamia College played a significant role in the partition of Pakistan in terms of where the meetings took place. But what's lovely about Islamia College is not just the architecture, but you can see aspects of colonialism in it, but it's a beautiful grounds around it. And on a summer's afternoon, you can see kind of the boys at the Islamic College, playing either cricket or football, and there's just such a nice ambience about it. Of course, that's a picture of my clients who were in Pakistan last month. So what we did with them is Jarsada is known for its fish. So when I lived in Pakistan, often on Eid or special occasions, we would go to Jarsada for a picnic, and they have these lovely huts that are kind of by the river. So the food is cooked, and you get to sit in these private huts and enjoy the meals. To be honest, Jarsada is not a tourist destination. Most tourists wouldn't know about it. This is very much a local kind of, how locals go. We used to go, we take a cricket bat. It used to be a big family gathering. There'd be about 70 of us. So you had the kids, the uncles and aunts and everyone, and it was brilliant. But you can see that, it's if you want to see the real Pakistan, what I try and do in all my itineraries and tours is really to show you the real Pakistan. And that is the end of the tour. So on day 27, we kind of take you safely back to the airport so that you can go back to your respective destinations. So that was a lot there. Now, how do they differ? So as I said, not everyone has the budget or the luxury of doing the 27-day tour. I thought I would cover the 27-day tour because you get a flavour of everything there is to see in the north. The most popular tour, however, is the 14-day tour. So the 14-day tour, if I showed you on this map here, you can see starts in Islamabad, goes to Kalaash and goes up to Hunza. So it's kind of this straight line here. The other popular tour, which I think is more popular with kind of people who are retired and have got a bit more time, is the 19-day tour. Sorry, not the 17-day tour. So the 17-day tour covers Hunza Skardu, Hunza and Skardu, and then back to Islamabad. So it's one big circle that you get to do. The reason I've said 19-day tour, because as I said, Fairy Meadows, and I'm not being judgmental here at all, but Fairy Meadows is a tough it's a tough destination. So, and to be honest, and I'm not being ageist about it, because you can be 80 and fitter than probably I am, but it's obviously a health warning. I would say the health warning even to a 50-year-old, that if you're not fit, you suffer from asthma, or you, as I said, you don't have the stamina, I wouldn't do Fairy Meadows. So you've got 14 days, you've got the 16-day tour. Now, the 16-day tour, we've got two variations. The other variation you can do is you can actually do kind of Hunza, Fairy Meadows, Naran, but instead of going towards Skardu, you can then do the other circle and go this way and do Chitral. So if you're more interested in the Kalaash Valley and the Hindu Kush, then you can do that and you can miss Skardu. So some of the group dates that we have on offer for next year, so you'll see that they're all kind of between May and October. That's mainly because I avoid April, because you've still got kind of rain and you've got risk of roads being closed because of landslides. And I avoid, you'll notice that there's nothing really in July or the middle of August. And the reason I avoid those months is because that's when you've got summer holidays domestically in Pakistan. And typically you'll find, the northern areas are very popular tourist spots for the domestic audience, because it's to escape the heat you got up north. So what you find is if you go in those times, you spend a lot of time stuck in traffic jams. The valleys and bazaars are very congested, and the hotels. Not that, to be fair, not that the hotels are cheaper. They used to drop in prices after 17th of August, but they've now caught on that actually most of the international foreign tourists tend to come the latter months, so they've kept the premium or peak rates right up to the end of September. So I'm just going to take myself off the screen so that you can see the full slide. Yeah, so you can see all the dates there. We've got the 3rd to 16th of May, which is the first one for next year, and then we've got the kind of 16-day one in August, and And then the 27-day tour you'll see is the 24th of May to the 18th of June for 2025. And then for 2026, I've got it in from the 5th of September to the 1st of October. So at the moment, we don't have anyone booked on any of these tours. That said, between now and January, we'll be at the Luxury Travel Show, we'll be at Destinations London, we'll be at the Adventure Show, I will be also at the Muslim Travel Show, and we're putting a lot of money into kind of marketing. So we're hoping that we will get people booked onto these tours. Now, as a rule, we've basically said that we have a guaranteed departure based on a minimum of 2 people. That is on the assumption that the 2 people who have signed up are happy to pay the price for 2 people, because as you can imagine, the larger the group, the cheaper the holiday. Now, the largest we would go to, it would be, I put down 6 there, but it would be 8 people. We wouldn't go to a larger group than 8, mainly because I just think personally, I think it's a better holiday, better experience if you've got a small group, because you've got the dynamics where you've got company, you've got a nice rapport, but it's not so big that if you want to tweak or make changes, that you've got too many decision makers or too many opinions in the group. So that's why we've kind of capped it at 8. And part of the, as I said, for me, Xperience Pakistan, I pride myself in it being a boutique company, and for me, it's not about taking volumes, because it is also about looking after the local habitat. If we have smaller groups, we don't have to have big coaches, which would then damage the environment as well. So the prices range. So I have got a list of hotels that we use for the 27-day to give you a flavour. Now, the hotels we're using for 27-day are not typical hotels that we would use for the 14, 16 and 17 days. One of the key reasons is that for me, it's about ensuring that we're using when I say quality hotels, it's using hotels that are great value for money, but provide you with a fantastic experience. With the 27-day itinerary, we've had to drop our standards slightly, only because we found that if we were to use the same quality of hotels that we're using for the 14, 17 days, for the 27-day, as I said, the price then would just not be an accessible price point. Again, everything we do is customized. If, for example, we've got, let's say for argument's sake, we've got 4 people in the group, and actually there's a couple in there, say we want to do it, but we do not want to stay in those hotels. We want to stay in the slightly better hotels, and we're happy to pay for it. That's absolutely fine. We can upgrade you, and we can share, the difference with you. But we'd rather put the lower price so that anyone who wants to do it can access it than put someone off by just going with the higher ones. And that's the same with the 14 to 17 days. So these prices are kind of quoted based on semi-deluxe. If you wanted to upgrade and go with the deluxe premium and the 5-star, that can also be done. So all these prices here include the accommodation. It includes the domestic transportation, so your private cars throughout the whole trip. You have an English-speaking guide with you throughout, so you have the same person with you, and we find that works best because you build a really good rapport with them. They get to know you, and in every single holiday that my clients have had with any of our guides, they've either ended up going to one of their nieces' weddings, or they've had dinner with their family, and it's ended up being a really personalized experience. So as I said, that's why we think it works really nicely. All the excursions are included, but the only meal that's included is breakfast. We deliberately haven't done lunch and dinner, because I just think when you're on holiday, you want the spontaneity that when you're going past something, you smell something nice and you want to eat it, rather than think, oh, well, I'm stuck now because I've paid to eat back at the hotel, be at the restaurant. I also just think it's more cost effective for you as well, rather than me kind of second guessing what you might order and putting a figure up there. But as always, we will always advise and recommend and guide you on which hotels or restaurants to try out. So as I said, I'm going to see if I can get this banner off. So I'll hide the banner so you can see the full list of hotels. So in Islamabad, we're using the Royal Crown Guest House. In Naran, we've got the Northern Retreat Hotel. Now, all of these hotels, as I said, are clean, comfortable. So it's not that they're kind of dirty or, unfriendly. The customer service is really good. However, they're not all bells and whistles in terms of, like the Serena would be, for example. At Fairy Meadows, we'll be staying at Fairy Meadow Cottage. Now, Fairy Meadow Cottage, if I'm honest, even if you were to upgrade, that's really the only accommodation. So there are some destinations where actually there's just little choice of the accommodation that you can stay at, and Fairy Meadows is one of them. At Store, we've got Vizier Mahal, and as I said, I'm not going to go through the whole list. you can actually later on see this recording, and then you can pause it on this slide if you want to then go on booking.com or something to have a look at these hotels yourself. So I'm going to go on to cover frequently asked questions, unless Phil, I'm assuming if you're still there, or I can see someone else has come online. If you've got any other questions, please feel free to ask. Is Pakistan safe? Now, normally I do actually, when I do my presentations at Luxury Travel, have a video which has been made by my clients. Now, last week I tried it, but I couldn't figure out how to use it. So this time I just haven't used it. So if I'm honest, Pakistan is like the UK, like South America, like any destination. It is as safe as you want it to be, and it can be dangerous. And what I mean by that is that most of the places that we take you now, although I say off the beaten track within reason, I'll put myself back on the screen so you can see me. So off the beaten track within reason, it's like, can you walk around as a foreigner? Absolutely. I think post 9/11, yes, we had a blip, and things were obviously of concern, not just for foreigners, but also for the locals as well. But since 2016, 2015, it's been very safe. And I think it's testament by the fact that if you go on YouTube and you just Google, or you put in Pakistan, you'll see how many independent vloggers, solo female travelers, solo male travelers are visiting Pakistan. And I say not have, they continue to, and they're traveling all around by themselves. So I think that's testament to the fact of how safe it is. Like I said, hi Asker, nice to see you too. But as I said, it's all about kind of being sensible. I wouldn't suggest you go down dark alley, just like I wouldn't suggest you go down dark alley in the UK. Islamabad is very safe. To be honest, Hunza and Gilgit-Baltistan is very, very safe. The people are very friendly. And I don't want to quote me on this, but I think it has got one of the lowest crime rates. And I think that's because like any village where everyone knows everyone. And there's something about they're very content people. They're very content living in their simplicity. So there isn't this materialistic greed. And often, crime or countries are safe where the materialistic greed comes, and that tends to be more in urban areas. So yes, Pakistan is safe. Sorry, it's a very long way to answer that question. But if you feel I haven't answered that question, please, stop me and ask me. If you're a woman, do I have to wear a scarf? No, you don't. You only have to wear a scarf when you enter a mosque. And to be honest, in all of the villages and towns that we'll be taking you to, they are familiar with seeing some foreigners, and not even the foreigners, even like kind of the people who travel from Karachi and Lahore, who are a lot more modern, tend to wear jeans and t-shirts. So it's absolutely fine. You don't have to wear a scarf. Pakistan is a Muslim country, but it's kind of a moderate Muslim country. These are just images of just a couple of female travelers who've been on holiday with us to give you an idea of the kind of clothing they wore. It's common sense, really. I think the next slide is, no, there isn't. So the common sense is it's a Muslim country. So, make sure you can wear Western clothes, but make sure it's loose. It's basically loose clothing. It's making sure that if you're a woman, you're not wearing short skirts. If you're going to wear a dress or skirt, make sure that your knees, it's like a midi length. Don't wear anything figure hugging. Don't show your cleavage. Don't wear anything sleeveless. So as I said, it's common sense, things like that. And for men, again, make sure you're not wearing any tight fitting shorts. If I'm honest, the nature of this holiday anyway is you'd probably want to wear either light cotton trousers or jogsuit bottoms, or just your comfy trousers and a loose t-shirt. Now, in terms of weather, in the months it does get hot, so it's about layers. In the evening, temperatures drop, so it gets cooler. So again, it's about dressing up with your trousers, t-shirts, and some fleeces and layers, rather than having anything too heavy. Heavy. Is there much on offer for vegetarians? Now, to be blunt, we're a nation of meat eaters. We love our meat. However, there are vegetarian options. So, you will find things like lentils, spinach, potato dishes. But is it a speciality of kind of Pakistan? or in the northern areas. Not really. I mean, in the northern areas, although in the northern areas they do have a lot of spinach and walnuts. Oscar, I think you're from Gilgit, Baltistan, so you might want to just comment on that. I know that they eat yak meat a lot, and they have soup and apricots. What Gilgit-Baltistan is actually known for is its fresh fruit and vegetable, which you really get to enjoy. I'm just going to see if Oscar comments on that, but no, he hasn't. So there is something on offer for vegetarian, but if you're not going to find any like massive specialist menus, it would probably be I think 80% meat and maybe 20% vegetarian options. Can I get around Pakistan by myself without a guide? Now, that's a question. Now, I have seen vloggers do it, but I don't know how, if I'm honest, because the northern areas, the infrastructure in Pakistan, if you're in Lahore or if you're in Karachi or in Islamabad, you've got the metro bus, you've got the taxi, it's easy to. And I think, to be fair, I think India's got a better rail network to even go up north. I don't think Pakistan has the infrastructure. Yes, there is the public buses and coaches that you can go on. I haven't done it myself. I've seen lots of vloggers do it. Would I do it myself? No, but that I think maybe I'm just being a snob about it. I wouldn't, because personally I like my personal space. I personally, if I'm going to go up north and the long drives, I want to travel in the luxury and comfort of my own car. To be honest, you can get away without a guide because everyone speaks English in Gilgit-Baltistan. Language is not a problem, but I don't think you get the same quality experience. I was actually just speaking to someone earlier today where they wanted to just do a day trip to Islamabad and were asking me the question about the guide. And every single client of mine who's come back and said, we are so glad we had a guide. And here's why. A driver, while it's a driver, maybe you have to speak a bit of English. They're drivers. They literally can get you from A to B. Do they have much history or idea or knowledge of the place? No, they don't. The added value the guides give is not only do they know so much about the history, stories around the place, but they also know things like anecdote places where, because they understand what clients and foreign clients are looking for, that they'll take you to. They can pick up what your interests are. They will, as I said, my clients have seen things that we didn't even discuss, that weren't even on the itinerary, but because the locals, and I said the guides often are from Hunza and Gilgit, they know of places that I don't know of, and because I haven't lived in Gilgit, so you get that, you get to see all of that stuff. So you really do have an enriching experience because of the guide. So personally, I would highly recommend that you do. Even if you're a Pakistani from the USA or overseas coming to Pakistan, don't think, well, I can speak the language, so I'll just have a driver. Yeah, you can, but as I said, you're not going to enjoy the place as much as having a local guide. And I think also fundamentally, just remember one thing: one of the key benefits of tourism is to ensure that we are empowering and giving work to the locals. So if we start taking shortcuts and cuts like this, the whole benefit of tourism in a way is lost, because the idea was to encourage people in Pakistan to work for their money rather than rely on handouts or donations. And this is a form of employment for them. And as I said, I think culturally you'll learn so much about their families, about their way of life, which you just won't get from doing it yourself or with a driver. Sorry, I get very passionate about this point. Is Pakistan a cheap holiday? Right. Okay. So this is debatable, and this is a bit frustrating, because I think there is a misconception that Pakistan is a cheap country. Look, like any country, whether that's Turkey or Thailand, and I've seen vloggers, you can do Pakistan on the cheap, absolutely. But that is like a couch surfer. That is then staying at youth hostels. That is then taking the bus or the coaches. If you want to do, and that's then probably not with me, and that's not me trying to be rude about it, but if the reason you would come to me is that I basically help look after all the itineraries, I ensure that make sure all the hotels have been quality checked, we ensure that if anything goes wrong, that we have a backup plan of how to change it, and we've had to do that on a few occasions, whether that's because of weather, whether that's because of clients fallen ill, etc., and have had to make those changes. And when I go to Pakistan, I find Pakistan very expensive. So, if you want to stay in Serena, for example, staying at Serena Hotel on average is about $200 to $250 per night. most of the good hotels now work with US dollars because of the fact that the rupee is now constantly losing value. So they've just now used US dollars. Similarly, if you go to nice restaurants, actually, to be fair, I think eating out even at a nice restaurant for a person with pounds or dollars is cheap. I remember I went out for a really nice meal with my dad. We had 2 steaks and a drink. And the steaks were absolutely lovely with sides, and it cost us, I think, £7.50. So, and that was the most expensive item on the menu. So actually eating out, to be fair, is cheap, even at a nice restaurant. But again, shopping, I find if you go to the expensive boutiques where they've got lovely clothes, I can't afford them. I find them I like my clothes, but I have a limit of how much money I'll spend on clothes. And yeah, I find them expensive. So I think, the good thing is that everyone takes credit cards. So I always say to my clients, take about, depending on how long you're going, but take about £1,000 in cash. And then the rest you can use your credit card rather than, taking lots of cash with you. And most of the time, I think one of my clients went last year, they took £1,000 cash with them, and they were on a 21-day trip. And I think by the end of the 21 days, they still had about £400 left, which then they, as I said, converted the rupees back into pounds. So when is the best time to visit? So I think, obviously, if you're not going to do a group tour and you want to do the northern areas yourself, then I always recommend from the middle of May to the middle of June, and then from the middle of August to the middle of October. And as I said, the reason I miss out those middle of July to August that month because of the fact that it's summer holidays in Pakistan. So you'll just find that you're going to be stuck in traffic a lot. And April, in theory, you can do it. I just avoid it a bit because that is when the season's just starting and you've got landslides and everything. So it's just not worth the risk, in my opinion. So I think that is, finally, what is the visa process? Now, the good thing is it used to be really painful. When I say, well, to be fair, back in the day, you'd have to go to the Jerry office or you'd have to go to the High Commission to get the visa. Then a couple of years ago, they introduced an online process where you had to go online and get your visa done, which I heard from my clients was awful, was a lot of paperwork needed. In August of this year, they've now introduced a visa on arrival service. So you still go online to apply for it, but you can apply for it 24 hours before you are going to Pakistan, and it's issued within 2 hours. And the good thing is about 130 countries, of which the UK, USA are one of them, it's free. So you don't have to pay anything. Now, I think if you're from Saudi or Dubai, and there's a few other Arab countries, actually you don't even have to get the visa in advance. You get visa on arrival when you turn up. But certainly if I'm assuming that the audience at the moment was watching is either from the UK or the USA, you can apply for the visa 24 hours before. It's issued within 2 hours, and it's absolutely free. And that is a push that the government are doing because they want to try and promote tourism, but also, both in terms of travel, but also in terms of business, and encourage, kind of investment in Pakistan. So it's a really good initiative, I think, by the government. And that really kind of, it's an hour and 17 minutes. That kind of comes to the end of the live feed. I hope I've covered all the questions. I'm going to hang around for about 5 minutes. I can see there's 3 of you viewing the live feed at the moment. So if there's any questions that you feel that I haven't covered, I've got my next presentation, or next live feed, which I'll be doing next Wednesday. Next Wednesday it will be around the same time, 6:30 to 8:30, and that is my mountain and city tour. So I call that my hybrid tour. So that is a 2 or 3 week tour, depending on if you want to have rest days. And that was basically a combination of last week's tour and today's tour, where you've got a week in Hunza, so you can enjoy some of the natural beauty, but then you also kind of got a week in city, so it covers Peshawar, Islamabad and Lahore. And that tour specifically has been designed for people who think we're only ever going to do Pakistan once. We can't see ourselves going there again because there's lots of other countries in the world we want to see, but while we're there we want to get a flavour of everything. So obviously it has its pros and cons. The pros are that the fact that you get to see the mountains, but you get to see some of the city and the culture as well. But the cons are obviously you won't get to see it in the same depth and detail that you would if you did 2 independent holidays or tours. So that is the end. Are there any questions? I mean, I'd love to hear your comments. You know, do you think 6:30 is an appropriate time? Do you think 7 o'clock would work better? If you are watching this as a recording rather than live, you know, please put it in the comments box, because I will be reading the comments. It's always helpful for me to know, you know, what's the best time to do these live feeds. I know most of the times, most people will watch this later as a recording, which is absolutely fine. But if you feel that there's content, is there too much detail, or is there something that's missing? You know, just let me know, please, because you know, things can only improve if you get feedback. So I will hang on for another minute or so, and then I'm gonna kind of call it a day, and then enjoy some telly and TV time with the family. Thanks, Esther. You too. Yes, Yafi. I'm not sure whether that's a serious question or whether you're just trying to be provocative. That all of northern Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan, is very safe. They're actually very hospitable people. I'm from Peshawar, and most of us Peshawaris are actually very hospitable. We're not terrorists. So I'm not going to re-answer and go beyond that. Thanks, Phil. Appreciate your comments. I assume excellent video thanks means that there's no questions and that I've covered everything. Okay, so on that note, thank you so much, Phil, as always, for sticking and watching the whole thing. Thank you to everyone else, including the haters, for your comments and your participation. We look forward to taking you to Pakistan, and we look forward to changing people's perceptions. You know, and basically, we look forward to as many of you coming and not just helping the local economy, but also kind of opening your minds to see how much more Pakistan is beyond the headlines. Yeah, Phil, next week, yeah, do join. It is it's a very popular tour, the hybrid, because, as I said, it's one of those things, it does a bit of everything, which many of us are stuck for time and for money, and sometimes, you know, that's kind of what we need, as much as we like to see all the detail, but we just don't all have that luxury. So yeah, so just a quick question, Phil, does 6:30 sound good, or do you think it should be 7 to 9? Although, as I said, 7 to 9, with the caveat that it's actually only about an hour, hopefully an hour and a half. It's never going to be 2 hours. In fact, what I'm going to do is, while I have you here, is I will share some of the links here for you to have a look at. So, Phil, I'm sharing a link here. It's worth subscribing to this channel. I've just discovered the channel today. It's called, I think, when you click on the link, you'll see them. Travelcations, I think, is the name. But basically, they have videos covering Hunza Skardu, Islamabad, Lahore. And from what I can see, that they're not a travel agent, but what they are, they're just content creators to cover different destinations and enable people to basically see and get flavors of what those destinations have to offer. I will also see so I'll just share a few more links here for you to see. Gives you flavor. But on that note, I am going to call it a day. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, everyone. And I will see you all next week. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care and bye-bye.